March is over, therefore I can start getting into the predictions I made. Alright, so let's see, Tomb Raider actually did end up making more money in China, like I said, and got an extra 64 million or so, so it's at a healthy 245 million on a 94 budget. I don't know if we'll get a sequel out of that, but it's not bad. As I said before, Love, Simon, strong word of mouth, and a certified fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes would allow it to get to 33 million on a 17 budget. That's not too bad. It's not amazing, but it's decent. Alright, the next week after we had Pacific Rim, which did do #1 at the box office. I figured it would because it's a sequel. Did really good numbers in China because there are Chinese people in this movie. They actually added a whole Chinese division. I haven't seen the movie myself, but that definitely helps with the box office. So it's doing 45 mil domestic on but a lot more worldwide. You don't get to have all the worldwide, but it's doing okay at 181 million on a $150 million budget. But the reviews slammed it. It's only got like a 40-something on Rotten Tomatoes, so I don't know if it'll have good box office legs because Ready Player One just got released, and then there'll be a couple more movies in April. Nothing too big, but if the movie isn't able to make another couple tens of millions of dollars in the next couple weeks, it's definitely not going to be a box office failure. Besides Pacific Rim 2, there was also a bunch of smaller films. Unsane only cost 1.7 million, but it made 10, so it's already a hit. Sherlock Gnomes died at the box office, and I'm very glad. Someone was smoking crack because they allowed this movie to have a $59 million budget. $59 million. I mean, come on. The movie made 30, so it's definitely not a hit. Midnight Sun, I don't know the box office numbers for this. I mean, I don't know the budget numbers for this, but it only made about 10 million. It probably only cost 10 to 15 million because it has a really small unknown cast. There's Bella Thorne, Patrick Schwarzenegger, and Rob Riggle. So I don't know if this movie is a hit or not, but it got slammed by the critics. Definitely affected its box office numbers, so it's probably a failure. Last but not least is Isle of Dogs, which didn't do very well, but it's not wide release yet. It only made about $3 million, but it's going to have a wide release on April 13th. Last movie we need to talk about is Ready Player One. So it actually costs more than I thought it would. I thought it cost $150 million, but it costs $175 million, which is why it looks so good. The movie made 181 worldwide, but only 53 estimated on a 4-day weekend, which isn't bad. The only thing keeping this movie alive is box office legs. If it can do well in the next month or so, then it can slowly get to be a hit. But at the rate it's going, it's not doing that well. 53 is kind of low for a movie with that budget 3 times that number of opening weekend. Now that the March recap is over, let's explore and do an April preview. So the April 6th already has 4 movies on the docket. We've got Chappaquiddick. It is a true story based off the 10 Kennedy incident where he let his passenger die. So that seems to be lower budget drama, but I don't think it has a lot of appeal. It's one of those history sort of true story movies. It does have the star power of Jason Clarke and Kate Mara, but I just don't feel it's going to do very well. It's got a weird title for a name. People aren't really interested in that. It is April. April is considered another dumping month. So the other movies are A Quiet Place, which already has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It'll probably go down over the more reviews come in, but it's a directorial debut of John Krasinski, and Emily Blunt's also in it, as well as they got the diversity angle by casting a real deaf daughter. She's not deaf in the movie, I don't think, but it helps with the sign language aspect because of the monsters, that they can hear things. The movie has a $17 million budget, which is a little bit higher for a horror film, but it should do well because of the sheer concept and the good ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that one will be #1. Also, the other 2 movies are Blockers, which is a raunchy sex comedy from the writers of the Harold and Kumar movies, directed by the woman who wrote the Pitch Perfect films. It also has pretty good ratings. It should do okay because it's a lower budget comedy. We'll have to see. And then the last film is You Were Never Really Here. It's a sort of thriller film about a ex-veteran who tracks down missing girls. Has really good ratings on Rotten Tomatoes already, and the performance by Joaquin Phoenix is considered amazing. So it should do okay because it's a lower budget film, but I don't think too many people are going to seek this one out. I think A Quiet Place takes the first week of April. The next week, there's a smaller, lower screen movie called Beirut. It's from Tony Gilroy, the writer of some of the Bourne films. It stars John Hamm as a negotiator who has to negotiate the release of one of his friends, but the terrorists want a brother who is behind some of the most horrific attacks. So it's like one of those real life sort of thrillers. Probably good ratings, but I don't think it'll do well simply because it's too real world, right? People are in the mood for blockbuster films right now, so I don't think it'll do very well. And then up against that will be The Rampage, the new video game movie starring The Rock. I think that movie will be #1 at the box office simply because of the box office appeal of Dwayne The Rock Johnson and because it's a monster movie. Now, the other two they're going to go up against are Sergeant Stubbs and American Hero. It's an animated film that I know nothing about, so I'm not going to talk about it. And the other film is Blumhouse's Truth or Dare, which is one of those generic ghost movies where kids go to Mexico, they play Truth or Dare, and the game follows them back to kill them. So it'll do well regardless of how the movie is. The movie could get a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, but the movie probably costs $1 or $2 million. It'll make $10 million. It'll be automatically profitable, even though not critically. And of course, they seem to be scraping the bottom of the barrel because the last two Blumhouse films were Get Out and Split. And Get Out being an Oscar-nominated film. So I don't think the movie will be very good. Friday, April 20th, Hitler's birthday, and also 420. Will be 3 more movies. There's another animated film called Duck Duck Goose, which I don't know all these animated movies are coming out, but I have no clue about this film, so I think it's going to bomb automatically. That one and the Sergeant Stubbs I mentioned earlier, simply because there has been no advertising budget for these 2 animated films, and if they have solid budgets, they're definitely not going to do very well. Also, Super Troopers 2. Super Troopers was a cult film, but I don't know if people are going to come out to see this one. It probably will be okay, and it is released on, April 20th, but I don't know if it's going to have enough of a fan base to be completely successful at the box office. And there's also Owen Wilson narrating the new Disney nature film Dolphins. It should do okay simply because it's a safe documentary film. But I don't think any of these will blow up the box office, giving Rampage a chance to do number 1 at the box office for a second week in a row. And then of course the #1 big hit of April, which is usually dumping month, will be Avengers Infinity War. That movie has the potential to be the new Black Panther. I mean that in the sense that it could take on the box office for the next few weeks if it weren't for Deadpool 2. But it should definitely dominate that week and 2 weeks until Deadpool 2 comes out. It's going up against Traffic, a sort of low-budget thriller about human trafficking. I Feel Pretty, the new Amy Schumer film that she did not write. She only stars in it. Also, one more animated film that I've never heard of called Animal Crackers. April is dumping month. There's 3 low-budget animated films that no one's ever heard about released in this month. I noticed that Rampage did move a week backwards because of Avengers Infinity War. None of the other films have. Maybe I Feel Pretty also moved back a week, but I don't think that movie's going to do very well either. You have all these little crappy films going up against Avengers, which is 20 films in the making. So obviously Avengers Infinity War will take on the box office and probably dominate for the next 2 weeks. And that's your April preview.